Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be starting in about 5 minutes at the top of the hour. Thank you so much. Okay, hello and welcome. Thank you to everyone joining us here today. My name is Madison Cowman and I am the Marketing Campaign Manager for GiveSmart. I am joined today by two amazing fundraising professionals, Erin Phillips, who is a Senior Manager for Customer Success here at GiveSmart, and Chelsea Wilson, the Product Marketing Manager for GiveSmart and Mobile Cause, which is Community Brands Fundraising Solutions. Thank you both for joining me today. In addition to their roles, I'm excited to speak with these two powerhouses because combined they have over 25 years of nonprofit experience. Erin is starting her 10th year in the fundraising software industry, which is incredible. And she has worked directly with hundreds of nonprofits throughout the years. And Chelsea has 15 years of experience in fundraising and nonprofits with specialty in areas of media relations and sponsorships, partnership development, rallying and organizing volunteer armies, logistics coordination with vendors, venues, and local municipalities, and creating community engagement through events such as boxcar rallies, scrapbook crops, chili cook-offs, and 5K, 10K races. So thank you both so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to, share your expertise based on your roles and your experience with our audience. On the housekeeping side of things, we anticipate today's call going around 50 or so minutes. We will be taking questions throughout, so please throw any of your questions you may have in the Q&A box, and we'll address them if they're relevant to the topic at the moment. Otherwise, we'll save them for the Q&A section at the end. We will also be using the chat to share resources with you throughout the call, so keep your eyes out for those. And finally, I wanted to make sure you all know that we are recording this call and we will be sending the full recording out in a follow-up email. So be looking for that in your inboxes either later today or tomorrow. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with today's agenda. We're going to start with a poll kind of asking about your 2022 plans. How can we plan so that no donor is left behind? And so we're going to cover everything from live streams to communication strategies and more. We'll touch on a few resources to help you get started down the path to success, and then we'll finish with a Q&A, like I mentioned at the end, with our two speakers. So let's get started here with our first poll. We want to know more about your 2022 events and your upcoming plans. So since we met last year, December of 2021, a few things have changed and we're all dealing with some new curveballs, to say the least. So we want to know, what does 2022 look like for your organization? Are you sticking to the in-person plans we chatted about last time, or are you moving back into the virtual space to be cautious or inclusive? Are you still deciding? Only you know what's best for your organization, your mission, and your donors, but we want a peek into what you're thinking. While we wait for those answers to come in, Erin, will you tell me just a little bit about customer success here at GiveSmart?
Absolutely. So I oversee a team of our customer success managers, or CSMs, as we call them. They are our clients' primary points of contact to ensure they're getting the most out of their GiveSmart subscription by way of sharing product updates and resources, as well as securing any service add-ons and the annual renewal.
Thank you. That's really great. I'm, as a previous GiveSmart customer myself, before I started in my role here, I can say it's really amazing how many resources are available for GiveSmart customers and how much support is available to them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end our poll and share our results. So it looks like most of you said mostly in-person events by 41%, with hybrid events coming in a close second at 35%. That's really interesting and really great to see. I think we're all really encouraged by trying to attempt going back to in-person in 2022 and maybe incorporating some hybrid elements, which is what today's call is about. So thank you all for participating. And we will continue forward with today's topic. So getting started in 2022, our focus is making sure nonprofits like you have the tools you need to connect with your donors, no matter the size, shape, or scope of your events. To get us started, I wanted to share the results of this morning's pre-webinar survey with all of you. Thank you to everyone who participated. We got some really great answers. And the data gave us great insight into how all of you communicate with your donors, both during the year and during your events. So when we asked you to rank your communication channels from most to least used throughout an entire year, 50.7% of you said email is your most frequently used channel. Social media came in second, with direct mail in third, or snail mail, whatever you like to refer to it as. And then coming in last were actually recorded videos and live streams. So kind of along the lines of what we were thinking, how are you incorporating different communication strategies throughout the year? But then the interesting part is when you look at during an event period while you're planning, maybe advertising, marketing for an event, running your ticket and registration, and then during the event, by a large margin, 46% of you said text message is the most effective channel for reaching donors, with 19% saying social media was the next most effective channel. And then email came in third. Live streaming fell somewhere in the middle, and then direct mail, phone calls, and recorded videos fell in last for during an event. I think it's super helpful to see what nonprofit peers are saying and what works for them both during the year and during events. But keep in mind, your donors and their preferences. Seeing that email works for others doesn't mean it's the best channel for you. But if you aren't using one of them to the best of their ability or with enough frequency, maybe you can try them out. So just really great to see some of this data coming through. And we also asked for some lessons learned, positive or negative, from your peers. And here are just a few takeaways. I wanted to share just a couple quotes. Different age groups and different donors require different forms of communication. Varying your form of communication is key to reaching your donors. Many people have their preferences for communication channels, which is important to note and follow as best as you can. Donors need to know the impact of his, her, or their donation. Have text messages pre-scheduled for an event, which is a GiveSmart feature and a really great call out, because you can just write it, set it, and forget it, and know that all of your text messages are going out when you need them to go out. Handwritten thank you cards are incredibly impactful. Treat them as a person first, donor second. They are not just a wallet and want to be treated as such. And last, we have found that it is very important to over communicate using a variety of channels to make sure that you're reaching everyone. So just a few great call outs that I wanted to mention from some of those lessons learned. And I also wanted to shout out real quick the winners from this morning's survey. So thank you to everyone again who participated in that survey. This data is super helpful. So our first winner is Emma from the Carroll Center for the Blind and Delilah from Humane, Indiana. Thank you both for completing the survey. I'll be in touch via email following the webinar with extra details if you're on the call today. Thank you so much and congrats. So moving forward, Erin, can you tell us what you're thinking as far as checklists in 2022 for hybrid events?
Sure. Thanks, Madison. I love a good checklist, as I'm sure many of you do as well. And event checklists are often at the core of planning, no matter the type or scope of event. We understand there's so many things that you have to think about, and especially now that we have audiences on both sides to consider. So today we're looking at the main elements of your checklist and how we can help make them hybrid. And you'll notice that the core elements are actually the same. So with some small tweaks, we can appease all audiences. We'll have ideas, best practices, and lessons learned from your nonprofit peers. And many of our examples highlight use cases on the GiveSmart platform, but we want to make sure you all know that these ideas and examples are meant to inspire you and motivate you to expand your options for your own donors, sponsors, and supporters. So GiveSmart customers include nonprofits large and small from around the US, and we've pulled these lessons and suggestions from their campaigns and feedback, especially in 2021 when events did start to return in person with a virtual component as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love a good checklist myself, and we can include these checklists in the follow-up email for anyone who wants to kind of compare their notes to what we have on these slides. We can absolutely follow up with that. So moving forward, Chelsea, can you share with us some of your strategies for connecting to audiences prior to an event?
Absolutely. So one of the first major touch points tends to be in the registration and ticketing phase. And this is really the first opportunity to connect with your audience and set the tone for the whole experience. So thinking through your ticket types will be really important. It's a good idea to have one for in-person attendees with details for food and table numbers and other things that pertain to that in-person experience, and a separate ticket, maybe discounted or even free, for the offsite attendees. You can offer an extra experience box or a goodie bag to make the at-home attendants feel special and make them really feel included in the event still. And the examples shown here are actually from the Auction for Hope hosted by JBWS. And this is a great example because they had 3 ticket types for their attendees: the in-person individual ticket, they had a VIP virtual ticket, and also a free virtual ticket option. So the VIP option has more to offer to the offsite attendees, but there is still that free option available. We've also seen GiveSmart customers offer their donors a gift box with snacks and swag, or have food delivered right to their front door from the caterer of the event. The options are endless. You can really get creative here to find a way to make it relevant to your mission or to your experience. Ticketing and pre-registration also works in your favor in another way, because it allows you to gather your donor info and their credit card information pre-event before it even starts. And that not only makes it easier for them to participate in person or offsite the day of, but it also helps you to track your participation on both sides of the experience so you can better cater to each audience. So also keep in mind that ticket types can work for booking sponsors and advertisement opportunities, and really any other pre-event registration type data that you might need to get together. These tactics can really work toward getting information in advance, especially that credit card information, to be able to connect with them via text message before the event, and to have their information on file before it even starts. This also gives you the opportunity to get interest and excitement going in advance. You can consider communication around a raffle or an early voting competition. You can even open a small sort of preview portion of a silent auction before the auction actually gets started, to get the activity going and to get that excitement there. This can apply to a lot of different types of events. So it can apply to auctions, movie nights, or drive-ins, game nights, and really any other event where you can encourage some type of offsite participation. So consider your audience, consider their comfort level with technology, and also with being in person, and just really how you can best cater to their needs and wants. Because the bottom line is, the easier you make it for them to participate in one way or another and support your campaign, the better outcome for every party. So really just put yourself in their shoes through both experience and think through different creative options. The options are really endless here.
Yeah, those are all really great points. And I love the ideas about getting your audience excited in advance, especially if, because you're going virtual, you need a campaign that can span a few days, or your auction is going to go for 3 to 5 days. Get their excitement going ahead of time, and then keep it going during by setting things live at certain times, or, offering different incentives at certain times, like anything you can do to get that excitement going. Those are some really great takeaways. So Erin, leading into self check-in, can you give us some tips on how you can get your guests involved in self check-in and contactless check-in?
Yeah, so I'll jump into this one. So self check-in is something we're really excited to be offering right now. So this allows your guests the option to actually check into the event or campaign themselves. And it's initiated by sending a simple text message. Your guests can then verify their information, check themselves into the event, and it allows the admin to track attendance and also to maintain a contactless environment, which is a priority for a lot of organizations and guests right now. So it really gives you the ability to do that. There are no settings that need to be modified to use self check-in feature. It's really simple. You send a text message using our preset check-in template, or you can modify that template if you prefer. And it can actually be initiated in either way. You can also share instructions with your attendees so that they can text into a certain code and initiate check-in that way. So there are different options there. And if your guests are not already registered, GiveSmart's technology will prompt them to enter their name, email address, and credit card information. So again, gathering all that data up front really just gives you one less thing to worry about during the event, makes the whole process smoother for everyone involved. One tip that we'll offer is make sure that you use signage at your event and use emails and text messages in advance to really communicate instructions to all of your guests. Put it on your website, whatever your resources are, so that there is no confusion and people know what to expect, know just how to make the experience smooth for everyone involved. If they are confirming a table or an on-site attendance ticket, then the GiveSmart ticketing and seating management tool actually allows you to super simple drag and drop guest assignments and groups to tables. And when it's time for guests to arrive or to be seated, you can actually initiate a text message that will automatically share their table number assignment with each registered guest. And again, this just makes it so easy for your attendees, and it saves that bottleneck potential at check-in, just really creates a great first impression upon arrival. Another tip that we'll offer is for those guests who may need some extra assistance, make sure that you've thought through assigning a team member or a volunteer, someone to help the guests who may need it. And again, create that easy to see, clear signage on site and the messaging online in advance, just to make sure that people understand what's going to happen and know what to expect. Just eliminates confusion at that moment. We do have a lot of resources, of course, and training to make this contactless registration easy and guest friendly and make you feel really comfortable with the process. Your guests can come to your event to support your mission, and you want to make it easier for them. And GiveSmart also offers live remote service and extra platform training to customers, so that you have the option to become platform experts yourselves and to have GiveSmart professionals helping you day of as well, if you prefer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chelsea. All of that is really helpful. And I know that check-in, either self-check-in or contactless check-in, are options that people are really looking forward to this year, especially with in-person events and sort of returning to a different sort of normal. So thank you. Those are really great points. And so, Erin, I'm going to pass the next one actually to you this time. Can you tell us a little bit about connecting audiences during your event with live streams and videos and all of those really great engagement techniques?
Yes, happy to. So live streaming is one of the most popular ways to connect your audiences, and a feature that has really grown exponentially in use on the GiveSmart platform since 2020. Now, keep in mind that you do not have to have a live stream in order to consider it a hybrid event. This is just one option and something that some of our organizations are doing. So right here, we have a screenshot of the JBWS. They embedded a live stream on their homepage. So just keeping in mind the comfort level of your staff, your auctioneer, any additional help that you've hired. And if they're comfortable and want to do the live stream, then take it from there on how extreme you want to get with it, or if you do want to hire an outside production company to help make the experience more successful and enjoyable. But noting that you've spent really the last 2 years and longer gaining donors outside your zip code. So making sure that you have the opportunity to allow them to watch your programmed events as well. And I know this has been talked about a lot throughout webinars, but we really only recommend showing just a portion of the event, right? Like they don't need to see cocktail hour and things that aren't pertinent to them, but making sure that we're showing the auction, the entertainment, speeches, your mission moment, even some games. So those things that they can really feel like they're a part of, kind of things that tug at their heartstrings and make them want to participate in the fundraising. And so one thing to also consider is for your in-person event, having an extra screen on site to show those watch parties or virtual attendees in a grid. So a really fun way to kind of show their emotions and expressions on the screen and make them feel like they're a part of the room. Now, if live streaming isn't an option for every component of your event, or maybe not an option at all because you don't have the resources, you can still embed videos on your GiveSmart homepage. And you can do, if it's a pre-recorded mission moment or a pre-recorded speech, you could definitely embed that on there so that when a virtual attendee is going to your page, you can have that video up the same night, the same time, so that they can watch that information and follow along. Another thing to consider is pre-record item descriptions or a virtual tour of your items. So if they're not in the room to actually be able to see those items that are set up on the table, you can kind of, even if it's 3 minutes and you're going around the room and kind of taking a video of the items and how they're set up, it will help them with that visual aspect of things that they might want to bid on. And then, like I said, pre-record those speeches, thank yous, your mission statement, whatever you can do to pre-produce things on your end that makes it easier on your team as you get to event night. So like we're seeing here, this again is the example from JBWS, and you can see the very obvious placement of the mission focused video from YouTube embedded on the GiveSmart homepage. They also included that great language at the bottom on how donors could text in to register, as well as go directly to the website to register. So they made it really, really easy for parties on both ends to know how they can participate.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the idea of either live streaming or having pre-recorded videos available for your audience in both spaces as well, because even for your audiences that are in person, having something that maybe in between entertainment or when they're looking for topics to discuss at a table, like looking at your campaign, seeing some videos and other ways to engage is really important. So looking into the way GiveSmart does live streaming, Chelsea, can you talk a little bit about GiveSmart's backstage option?
Absolutely. So let's take a look at what live streaming really looks like on the back end in GiveSmart. Again, this is a really highly requested topic, of course, right now. So let's really dive in a little deeper. For live stream needs, you can directly embed a few different options here. So you can work with Canva Video, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Vimeo live stream in your GiveSmart campaign. And the really cool thing about GiveSmart's backstage dashboard is that you and your team have sort of a one-page experience to manage your live feed, and that'll include donor activity and live chat, keeping track of auctions, donations, instant items, raffles, voting, all really from one centralized location. So that eliminates clicking around from screen to screen or device to device, and allows you to stay in control and sort of in your command center here, so that you really have a good perspective on the status of all these pieces of your event at any given moment. We did have someone ask us a question in the pre-webinar survey if text messaging is only allowed through Backstage. So we wanted to answer this live. GiveSmart actually allows you to text your donors anytime before, during, or after an event or a campaign. And you can actually schedule text messages ahead as well. Chat is not your only quick messaging option when you're managing a live event, and if you have volunteers with helping hands. So texting is an option anytime, not just from Backstage. Thank you for asking the question so that we could clarify live.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a really great question. Sometimes there are so many features, it's hard to keep track of what you can do where, but I think it's really important to know what GiveSmart's features are, especially Backstage with chat is great during your live events. Being able to text anytime to anyone in your campaign, especially you can break those down into groups and text individuals. That's really, really great to know. Erin, looking into sort of a deeper dive into items, can you go over some item types and some ways that you can incorporate both audiences with item promotion?
Sure. So GiveSmart has 6 item types: silent auction, live auction, instant, vote, raffle, and donate. And you'll see here, this is a snapshot of what kind of that item image looks like on the GiveSmart platform. So every type of item will have that main image. You're seeing the great golf here, but you can also upload an unlimited number of supporting photos to your item's description page. So that's really key, especially for those offsite bidders, but even in person, especially when it comes to things that are like more experiences or trips or vacation rentals. It eliminates those questions and the doubt in the donor's mind of whether or not they should bid on it if you're including all these different images and being really, really clear in the description on any blackout dates, restrictions, including links to maybe like a 360 walk around or any YouTube videos. So you can also upload a YouTube video as part of your item description as well. So the more information you put in there, the more likely your donors are to bid and the less questions that you'll get. And now thinking about, your in-person donors can obviously have a little bit of advantage because the items are right in front of their face on the table. But what's one thing that's interesting that we've been seeing is some of our organizations are actually only placing a few items out at their event, just to kind of prevent people from huddling around, and encourages those in-person donors to really get online and bid and see everything that's up there, as opposed to just a few things catching their eye. So keep that in mind, that you don't have to put everything out on a table. And we'll get to that in the checkout section as well, that some of our organizations are choosing not to even, bring items, and they'll work on the pickup piece separate. Another thing to keep in mind with both of your sets of audiences is that you can set an automatic auction close. So this means that no matter where your donors are, nobody gets an extra advantage. So when the auction ends, it ends. So we really, really encourage that if you're having both sets of donors, that if we say it's going to close at 8, we have it automatically close at 8, and everyone knows that. And along those same lines too, you want to make sure that you are using the GiveSmart texting feature to inform your donors of everything that's happening. So you can send out text messages live, you can highlight items with no bids, you can let them know when the auction's closing, do kind of like a 15-minute final warning. So the GiveSmart templates make that really, really easy to just automatically apply a template, schedule it to send later. And you can do all that prep work ahead of time to make sure that those are going out at the right time.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to jump in quickly and just touch on one of the examples I shared on the screen. It's the one with the beach theme and the premiere banner across it. That example came from a silent auction I ran when I was a customer in 2021. We didn't have a live auction, so I created premiere banners that I put on photos before I uploaded them on GiveSmart. So you could tell apart the more valuable items that would have been seen as live items during a live auction. I also pulled photos from the Verbo listing for this condo and gave bidders a better look into what they were bidding on, as well as some photos from the local area in Florida where the condo was. So if you don't have an item that you can necessarily take pictures of, do some research, dive into it, throw up there what you can. It was a really great way to get my donors involved, and bidders were ecstatic about this opportunity, and it sold for about $2,000 more than its fair market value when the bidding war ended. So that shows that the more you communicate with your donors, the more they're willing to spend their money. So when videos aren't available or you can't take your own photos, pull from, if it's a trip like this, pull from your local photos that you can find in that area, or anything creative that you can come up with, and it'll just keep encouraging your donors to do more. So looking into our next section, I wanted to take a pause, kind of give Chelsea and Aaron a second to breathe and take a break, and run a second poll. So based on what you've seen so far, we've had a lot of questions coming in, and we love that. Keep those questions coming. I also wanted to just ask, if with these questions that are coming in, both in the chat and the Q&A, if any of you would like to speak to someone about GiveSmart, if you're interested in learning more about any of these, let us know. Feel free to reach out to us anytime, or let us know here on this poll or at the end of the webinar in a survey what you would like to know about. We would love to connect with you. And so I just wanted to give you an option here to let us know if you're interested in learning more. We know there's a lot in this webinar today to hear about. So I'll just give that a couple more seconds. Looks like most of you have responded. And if not, like I said, at the end of the webinar, there will be another survey option for you to say if you're interested in learning more. This is just sort of a break in the middle to give you a breather. All right, perfect. Thank you everyone for responding there. So to continue, Chelsea, can you go a little bit into games? We've touched on what to do before your event. We've touched on live streaming. We've touched on what you can do with items. We've touched on check-in. What about games? What about other fun ways to engage your donors during an event?
Absolutely. So this is a fun slide. You really want your offsite donors to have as much fun as your onsite donors, and to feel just as present and included in the event. So these are fun ways to make that happen. Offer raffle items and voting items for games and competitions, both in person and virtual, that can have both audiences involved. So 3 examples from GiveSmart, using GiveSmart features to create some awesome engaging opportunities for their donors, are here on the screen. So let's go through these. Number 1 is from Free Store Food Bank's Fall Classic. They offered a sponsored raffle, and tickets to entry were actually purchasing restaurant gift cards. So that's how they were entered into the raffle. And they were all available as instant items that show on an order form with the tickets upon registration. A super simple way to set up something that allows them to choose their own gift card that's most relevant to them and to be entered for a larger raffle as well. Number 2 is actually from the same event. And in this case, Free Store Food Bank held a sponsored voting campaign. In this example, it's Ohio State versus the University of Michigan. This is just a fun way to bring in some relevant sports, pop culture, current events, just anything that, you know your audience best, anything that may really get them excited. People love to share their opinion and kind of see how they stack up. So their voting results in this example were shown on the home page. So again, just a fun way to create some engagement there. Example 3 is from Narings Hall's green and white raffle. And I want you to hear this number. This raffle alone raised over $90,000. And that is impressive just through this raffle effort. So the raffle tickets were sold, 1 for $25, up to 5 for $100. And they were sold in categories. So as you see here, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and they even included an alumni category. So purchasers could buy tickets associated to the student they know or support, or their individual class level or status. And again, so simple, and it raised over $90,000. So it just shows that it pays to try to create this kind of simple engagement. There's so many other fun ideas. Really, again, the sky is the limit here. You can host a trivia or Q&A session during your event and allow virtual participants to submit answers so that they can participate. You can host an in-person session and have a volunteer run a virtual session in another room so that you avoid tech delays or complications. Just keep in mind that the experiences don't have to always perfectly align. I think, Aaron mentioned earlier, they may not need to see cocktail hour live via their computer screen. You can think about what's the best experience for both audiences. And it's okay if they're a little bit different, if that's the best outcome overall. Bingo is always a classic option. Personally, I have experience with a really popular virtual bingo that people requested we repeat. It was so much fun. And it's so simple, but just kind of takes you back to the good old days playing bingo, and people love that. We've also seen virtual bartending, virtual pizza making, virtual paint and pour, and all kinds of classes like that. Just make sure that you find a way to make it connect to your mission and your event. And you can get creative there so that you can get your donors involved in the fun, no matter their location. So here's a really fun concept if you haven't heard of it before. This is the concept of unselfies. And this is really just a selfie taken while supporting a charity. This concept is established by the same people who run Giving Tuesday. So encourage selfies during your event, at home during a watch party. Give them a unique hashtag so that they can share it for visibility on your end, but also for engagement and promotion. So you can even take it a step further and encourage a scavenger hunt selfie. So maybe that's take a picture with a pineapple or whatever is relevant, of course, to your event and your mission. That's just a fun example, but you could do selfies with a race bib, selfies while volunteering, travel photos with a branded item. This is something I did, and it was really surprising how popular this became. We just took donations for little stuffed animals that had branded t-shirts on for our organization. And people would take those stuffed animals and take pictures out on trips and in public and share them for chances to win prizes. So we called it Where's Your Bear Scavenger Contest. You would be shocked how excited adults got to purchase these little teddy bears and take pictures with them. So again, sometimes it can be just so simple, and it's just an opportunity to engage. And again, the easier you make it for your participants, the more successful it will be.
That's amazing. I love the Where's Your Bear. I would participate in that in a second. I think that's adorable. I'd probably post a picture of like my dog with the bear, to be honest. But we did have a question come through. Someone said if the first example was an example of the ticket to enter the raffle is to buy a gift card. So yes. So what they did was they set up restaurant gift cards as an instant item in GiveSmart. And those were available via order form or on the items page in their auction. And then your ticket to enter the raffle was to buy a restaurant gift card. So you were getting something with your raffle ticket. You're getting a restaurant gift card. So you're automatically getting return on entering the raffle. And then there was a prize at the end. And then for the green and white raffle, I will have to follow up in the follow-up email with the recording and all of these resources from today with what the prize was from the green and white raffle. I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but I will for sure follow up on that to be able to answer your question because it was great. And then for the bingo, it was hosted virtually. They had it live streamed through, it might have been Zoom, and they had a host on one end and then all of their participants participating virtually. You can also have people in a room doing a bingo watch party together, or in your event space if that's something that you wanted to use. So it's really up to you how you want to live stream that bingo. You can get really creative. We do have a jam session on bingo from the Hyacinth AIDS Foundation that I will include in the follow-up email so you can see how that organization did bingo. So looking forward to this slide, Erin, can you talk a little bit more about checkout and item fulfillment, both for different types of audiences, be it contact lists, or how to get your offsite donors to get their items at the end?
Yes, definitely. So the key to talking about checkout and item fulfillment is the first step is making it really clear on your GiveSmart homepage or any communication that you're sending out to your donors ahead of time. Donors are more likely to bid if they know in advance how easy or difficult it might be to pick up those items. So make sure you're being really clear with what that process is going to look like up front. But then we'll talk a little bit about contactless checkout. So you can check out guests, 3 different kind of steps here. So you'll text guests, winning guests, a link that they've won items with the option to check out. And you'll send a personal link to them where they can review everything that they've purchased and pay right on their phone. Typically then text guests who haven't done so after 15 minutes or so and actually just run all of the credit cards that are on file. So that's one key tip here is that requiring a credit card is great because then you can just run those balances at the end of the night if the donor hasn't done it themselves. And then when it comes to item redemption, so a couple different options here. If you did need to do shipping, which applies for in-person events, but also those donors that are at home. Sometimes I know donors come to an event, they win a bigger item or they're going somewhere after and they just really don't want to take the item home with them. So one tip that we've seen is that we'll have organizations who just ask the donor to build in an extra donation or have an instant item set up with different amounts that they can add to their cart. So you can give them an approximate, it'll be $20 to ship that. We'll add that to their account. So you can kind of add those shipping fees in ahead of time. And then of course, collecting that guest information to be able to ship the item off to them. Another thing we thought about was volunteers designating table numbers with numbered packages. So texting your winners what table number their item's on and what their item number is for pickup. So just kind of making it super clear and not having those congested checkout tables that you've had in the past. Another idea would be, have an envelope for every item that guests are coming to pick out, kind of spread those out, note on the envelope if it has a physical item that goes along with it. So you can kind of keep things moving and again, not have that backed up checkout line. Lastly, one idea that we've been seeing that's really cute is a drive-through pickup. So making it trunk style by offering contactless pickup a day or 2 after the event. It's kind of like, think of Target Drive Up and people have a specific date and time that they can come pick up their items, just open their trunk and you'll have volunteers or staff putting it in the car for them. So lots of different ideas here. Obviously, as always, keep in mind your donors, where they're coming from, what option works best for you. But there are a gamut of different ideas. The biggest thing is just making it really clear to your donors on what that's going to look like.
Absolutely. I love the idea of a drive-in. I did a sort of sign up for a date and a time to pick up your items with my organization last year, but I kind of wish we would have thought of the drive up item or the drive up idea, because that would have been really fun. We just scheduled donor pickups on a certain date at a certain time. So we knew when they were coming, we could have all of their stuff ready, take it out to their car with them if they needed the help. But I love the trunk style. It's sort of like trunk or treat with donor items. That's really fun. So we've talked a lot about communicating with hybrid audiences and catering to your audience types, near, far, wherever they are, if you get my reference. But looking into some resources that can help you plan and prep in this new year and going forward. Chelsea, can you touch on these two resources on this slide?
Sure, certainly. So the first is GiveSmart's Be Prepared resource. I believe the link is going to be in the chat that you can access. And it's full of creative backup strategies and ideas to plan for every outcome for events. So this was created to help you think of every option and avenue as you plan for a whole new year full of events. We're all used to pivoting at this point. It's been the word of the last couple of years. And it's great to explore your options before it's time to actually pivot and have a backup plan for your backup plan. So this really helps you just feel prepared and have a good option so that you're not scrambling and thinking, gosh, all is ruined. It helps you to have other options to lean on. The other resource here is GiveSmart's new annual calendar. And this is something we're super excited about. It's full of ideas for fundraising, awareness months, some of those super fun national days like National Pizza Day. And again, this is created as a resource and a guide for helping you to plan your annual strategy and some extra fundraising opportunities that you may or may not have thought of. And again, just you won't miss any of those super fun days that you can capitalize on. There are a lot more resources like these available on GiveSmart's website under the resources tab. So be sure to check all of those out.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to Amy in the chat for saying that you loved the calendar. We love to hear that because we want these resources to help you guys with all of your planning and everything that you have to do throughout the year to keep, forwarding your mission and making impacts in your communities. So thank you for that feedback. That was really great. Erin, looking at some additional resources to help you plan and prep, we have more checklists, we have more templates. Can you touch a little bit on these resources as well?
Sure. So we'd be remiss if we didn't mention our sister company, Mobile Cause. Mobile Cause is our, again, sister fundraising solution, and they have their own library full of generous resources to boost your planning and fundraising. So they offer templates for messaging in all kinds of scenarios like thank yous and recurring giving. And then we also wanted to highlight their essential fundraising event checklist for planning. Just another great resource to get the event prep ideas flowing.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are both really helpful. Mobile Cause is also a really great solution for your fundraising needs. And we do have a bundle with them. If that's something that any of you wanted to learn more about, having GiveSmart and Mobile Cause on your side for fundraising, let us know. But moving forward, I wanted to touch on really quick. This was an exclusive customer webinar from a couple weeks ago. And we have the recording here today to share with you, which is super exciting. So it's a powerhouse profile series with customers in attendance to really take sort of an advanced class for anyone with basic product knowledge who enjoy a faster pace and bigger ideas to dive into the how-to of how an organization ran their event. So the guest speaker on this was Pamela Villagra from Malvern Preparatory School. And some of the lessons that we learned from her were that in person, they only had about 600 parents who could attend an event, but hybrid offered them about 9,000 people a chance to attend and participate. So that's incredible. It shows what a true impact you can have having these virtual components to your events. And Pam says that virtual needs to be an option for any type of fundraising event going forward because it has made such an impact into their events. And additionally, JBWS, the organization we mentioned earlier for the different types of ticketing for in-person and virtual, as well as their live streaming option and their embedded videos on their homepage, they will be joining as the guest customer for next month's Powerhouse profile, which we will also share the recording after the fact. So stay tuned for announcements to hear more about the multiple events that they've hosted, and stay tuned for that webinar recording as well. We are super looking forward to them speaking on that webinar. So if you dive into any of these resources and have questions, feel free to contact us anytime. I'm going to be sharing our contact link in the chat. There have been a ton of questions and a ton of chats today. Thank you all so much for interacting with us. We're here to help you, so feel free to reach out to us. And before we wrap up with our Q&A, because we do want to get to some really great questions that we've had, I wanted to just touch on a few takeaways. First, make sure you're planning and preparing for every type of event scenario. It seems obvious sometimes, but now that pivot is like our middle name, we need to know what we're planning and how we're planning it and how we're preparing to target both of our audiences that we've built. And then be sure to include every type of donor in your event plans. Don't leave an audience behind because you never know the outcome and you'll always have happy donors. And finally, you got this. No matter, whether you're stressing about donors who are still adverse to technology and still want paper bid sheets, or if you're sweating trying to figure out how a live stream will work at your event, remember, you've come this far. You've learned so much. No matter the obstacle, you can overcome. Get your spreadsheets, your Post-its, your to-do lists, break it down bit by bit. You can always figure it out, and our team is always here to help you. So looking at our Q&A with the remainder of our time, I'd like to dive into what is my favorite section. So with our two incredible fundraising professionals who are also GiveSmart experts, feel free to keep sending in more questions. I have a few that I'll get us started with. As a final reminder, we will be sending out the full recording of today's call as well as any resources covered. I will also be taking a few of your questions and chats and running them by some of my team members to make sure we have the best answers possible. So if we don't answer them live, don't be discouraged. We will make sure that we follow up in that follow-up email for you so that you have the answers that you need. So to get us started with our first question, how do we get credit card info in self-check-in? Can a guest scan in with a credit card with their camera phone? Aaron or Chelsea, if either of you want to take it away with this one, go right ahead.
Yep, definitely. So the credit card prompt is part of self-check-in. So you can do it through self-check-in. We also have a text template that you can send even separate from self-check-in that is prompting donors to add their card on file. So a couple different options there. And the scanning of the credit card, I believe, is more specific to the actual cell phone. So I know, and a lot of people have their credit cards saved as well. So it'll probably depend on their carrier and their settings.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question and a really great answer to that question, I should say. And maybe if either of you have some ideas, if people do self-check-in, should they have a separate entrance at the event? How will we know who has checked in and who hasn't? So if either of you have seen any techniques with how to handle sort of like different types of check-ins now that we're looking at some different options.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I think it's great to consider the idea of an expedited check-in line. It makes those people feel special and they get kind of like a kudos for doing something ahead of time. So I think that's great. If you have somebody directing donors at the door, have you already checked in through GiveSmart? Great, come down this aisle. Now, keep in mind, they may or may not have done the full self check-in. So you'll still want to double check, but with the self check-in feature, they'll be able to just pull their phone up, show that they've checked in. And if not, you'd guide them to then, the right line to complete that check-in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chelsea, I'll throw this one to you. Can you set individual items to close at a certain time? We may have waves of item closings. Can that be scheduled in advance, or can you edit items in a group?
Yes, absolutely. So they can be scheduled to close by category. So you can organize it that way in advance and then manually close them by category.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a really great question. And you can also, bulk edit items. You can separate them by category. You can also edit your individual items. So however you need to go about it to organize that and make it work for you, you can be totally creative. That was a great question. And Aaron, is there a way to make live auction items accessible to people who are maybe not in the room? Can you touch a little bit on that, or maybe what you've seen some of your customers do?
Great question, for sure. I think this one's really important to think about who is going to be bidding in the live auction. I'm sure many of you who have done a live auction before, that generally there's probably 10 to 15 couples that are bidding in the live auction. So keeping that in mind, if if most of those people who are your traditional bidders on the live auction are going to be in the room, I would do it as you normally have, with your auctioneer or your MC doing it live in the room. If you did feel the need to allow those donors at home to participate, then what you can do is, similar to how we had a slide with this earlier where we had a premiere on one of the item images, put them in as silent auction items so that everybody can bid on the items, whether they're in the room or at home. So they can still be presenting what the items are in the room, but have everybody doing it on their phone. And then you can still close them one by one and announce the winners on each item. But your kind of two options that I've seen work best are either keep it in the room or do it as a silent auction, but putting that additional emphasis about being these, your higher priced live auction items.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another really great question. And another question that came through, and I can kind of touch on this one a little bit as well, since this was something that I dealt with last year. They said, we have a more seasoned donor base, and I'm wondering if you have any data that shows that an aged population finds the GiveSmart process really easy. So speaking from my own experience, I was a customer last year, and when we had to kind of pivot everything, or well, I guess now it's 2020 because we're in 2022. This is crazy. When we had to pivot everything and turn to completely virtual, we had a donor base that was maybe mid 50s and above, maybe not as comfortable with technology. Some of them definitely were, but we had kind of a range. And so what we did, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, we made sure that we had a few volunteers who were available almost 24/7 for the duration of our event, that they were available via phone call, text message, email, to answer questions, to troubleshoot logins, bidding, whatever they needed help with. I helped so many people reset passwords and enter credit card information, and whatever they needed help with, I kind of helped them overcome those obstacles. I had a frequently asked questions section in my GiveSmart campaign so that they could go in and have their questions answered if there was anything that they were unsure about or they needed sort of a how-to guide. I went through my campaign in the beginning and went through kind of what my donor experience would look like for that event. And that's how I came up with those frequently asked questions and those how-tos, so that, any obstacles they were able to overcome and they had someone to contact if they needed that help. Aaron and Chelsea, I don't know if you have any other advice for helping some of those seasoned donor bases that might need some encouragement with tech.
Yeah, I think you really kind of nailed it. It's about setting the expectation for how it's going to work and providing a lot of that education, like you said, and really just offering a live person assistant.
Absolutely. And then let's see, I'll have like maybe two more quick questions. Is check-in required, and what functionality is enabled by checking in versus not? So Aaron or Chelsea, either of you.
Sure, I can take this one. So check-in is not required. That's, there's reporting in the GiveSmart platform on checked in. So if a donor checks in or if you check them in manually, you have that in the reporting. So it kind of depends on your restrictions and what you're looking for. But we also have some organizations that just have signage around the room on how to text to register to the GiveSmart platform, especially those that are going a little bit more contactless. So if you're not worried about necessarily checking tickets or assigning bidder numbers or things like that, you could definitely just promote the text and instructions at the door, buy the items, and have the guests do that as opposed to a more formal check-in process.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really great. And then final question, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Someone asked if they can text back and forth with their donors through GiveSmart. They didn't either know or they aren't sure whether or not that's an option. So Aaron or Chelsea, if either of you can take this one.
Yep. Yeah. So it is two-way. So there's different groups in the GiveSmart platform that you can text to. So we have specific user groups. You can also text one person individually. So we've seen it for like raffle winners where they'll actually just text the individual raffle winner, letting them know that they've won. So it is two-way, but keep in mind that there are some limitations in the specific groups in GiveSmart that you can text, such as texting all ticketed users, texting all auction winners, texting everybody that has a balance. So that makes it really easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was actually something that I just learned recently as well, was that there's two-way texting like that. So that's also a really great question and not something that everyone realizes. So thank you again to everyone who has chatted and submitted questions. Anything that we didn't get answered, I will make sure we follow up with in the follow-up email. But seeing as I want to give everyone time for, mid to end of day, depending on what time zone you're in, I just wanted to thank you everyone again for attending today and for joining us. This has been really great. You have given us some really great insights into your communications, your events, and what you're planning for this year. And I will make sure that we follow up on a bunch of these questions because I think it's very important that you get your answers. So thank you again. And thank you to Erin and Chelsea for your wise words and for extending your expertise to all of us. We will see you all next time.